2 hours for theory per se, but actually there is no detailed theory I'm going to deliver. Rather, I'll be trying my best to relate some of the theories to facts and its implications for policy. And then our context at this moment is on gender diversity and farm performance, unorganized in organized sector. So far, in other lectures, we have been discussing the role of gender in farm. Also, we have been discussing, its connection or interrelationship with trade. In this 2 hours session, I have actually been thinking how to make it more holistic. I think he is going to share you the PPT and some of the data files. The moment I'll start working with the data, so she will be sharing. Also, the PPT of both the sessions will be shared with you. It's in that folder only. And in the break time, I will share you the other merging of data sets of informal sector. So at this moment, we'll be sharing. She will be sharing the two lecture and also one folder containing practice data. So we'll start with some theory, some directions for research, and also we'll relate with the data. Okay. Okay. When I say gender diversity, there are so many ways by which gender diversity is perceived, a concept. So gender diversity, it links to demographic differences, it links to cultural context, it links to sectoral perspective, it links to institutional perspectives as well. When we wanted to understand gender role in farm performance, again there are another word is farm performance. Wherein these databases, especially in informal enterprise database, we do not have so many information to measure farm performance except gross value items of the farm. There are limitations of these large scale data sets, but the coverage is quite good. Understanding the social fabrics and its implications are really good. So, why should I study these? Actually, so far we haven't discussed in detail about gender. Now onwards, it will be focusing on gender. Though in Professor Pavel has highlighted and explained some of the variables related to gender, but specifically the lecture defined with gender is not yet made. So now onwards, today this lecture and in tomorrow all lectures are actually related to gender. So there are mixed opinions on gender. If we scan the literature, some studies report positively, mentioning their better governance, taking risk, especially while dealing with diversity. But some literature just mention the reverse. While counting the positioning of women, it is considered to be very symbolically or included in most of the decision making units with an extent of tokenism, extent which we call it as tokenism. That means women are symbolically represented and their position is underrepresented. So, while understanding women and their role in enterprise or in performance, farm performance, we will check by their sector and then the structural variation. while understanding sector and structural variations, we have to discuss about from the data about which kind of sector, which type of sectors they are into, and why is it the case that they prefer to work mostly in the informal setup than that of in organized setup. Though organized setups or the sector is motivating them more so far as the latest policies are concerned, they have been more accountable in the board, and they at least from the policy perspective, they are. I mean, there are a number of policies which promote their position, but till the date, it has been observed that in capital intensive or male dominated industries, gender diversity has weaker association with performance. That needs to be tested. I cannot buy this argument if somebody is writing or somebody is highlighting based on certain context. We have to cross it. Therefore, this lecture is motivating you to think some of the dimensions of gender in farm performance. Small or family-owned farms often face cultural resistance to gender diverse leaders. This is more relevant in the context of informal enterprises. There are a number of cultural rigidities which restrict them to take any action. Coming to the Indian unorganized sector, whatever I said, mostly apply to developing countries and even in the globe. But in Indian context, especially in the organized sector, formal structure and regulatory structure mandates or promote the role of gender, promotes gender inclusion. But till the date, I'll show you some facts. Still, we are not at all comparable to the world. And in unorganized sector, which I will do it in detail, along with I'll also guide you organized sectors and its data. Once in the half of this time, around 1 hour, we'll discuss about the context, background, theory, how we can conceptualize, some of the areas of work relating to gender. But I'll give you directions for ASUS data as well as ASI data. Professor Babal will also explain you some of the other dimensions of ASI, but I'll give you the introductory note with some estimation, some handling techniques. So, especially in unorganized Indian organized sector firms, it is largely dominated by women, especially when we look at their pay structures. It's largely low paid. Informal work with little decision making power. Even if they by per se on the paper they have power, their name is not noted as a leader, but mostly run by proxy women, or mostly run by women which are just on the paper, but actually decisions are taken by or maybe the counterpart. Women-led enterprises face structural barriers such as now when you are including in your model about structural variables. Most importantly, literature suggests that its skill mapping, mobility of the person are indicators of structural barriers. Institutional barriers, I'll tell you in my PPT and also be shared with you. Okay. So when these barriers are attached, the performance of women-led enterprises in unorganized enterprises, they call it as proprietary enterprises, proprietary-based enterprises, where productivity is compromised. Okay, so those are very fast time. I suggested you to follow my own video of understanding data and to also start working with handling large scale database. But still, if you are missing, we'll do it for sure. And then try to see if, since you visited this campus, try to reserve and procure this asset. and will be paying you very well. Okay. Given my time constant, I didn't add many facts. I wanted to add facts. Okay. So based on these issues, I just thought, why not mentioning where are the gaps? Where are the gaps? So gaps mostly identified is causal inferences. It is looking at data, uh, looking at data, and then looking at its um, variables, largely explaining these four, five, one, two, three, four indicators. I'll also emphasize one or two in my other slides. So starting with causal direction, it's actually difficult to determine whether gender diversity causes better performance or if high performing firms are simply more inclusive. So if by any chance you are taking this as your work for project related to gender, um, I'm strictly mentioning that these are the gaps. So no single database yet available in India to map the causal directions. Yes, of course, to some extent you can think of collecting panel data and then use DID methods, etc. DID or regression discontinuity method to identify the causal differences, but still at the unit level, at the district aggregated level, no single data is available. So you need to understand some of the techniques where you can able to map the causal link. Or if you wanted to do field survey, I'll suggest you to follow the techniques for experimental research, at least with semi-experimental research. And that will be earning you better. That will help you to earn you better from your PhD journey. Okay? Or from your professional journey so far. Coming to this, I think I have clarified. So how far gender diversity causes better performance is not clearly stated. Or in most of the papers, they simply mention that this impacts that variable, gender diversity impact performance. Actually, these are not impact-based research. These are, we simply write it down based on some methods, even based on some cross-sectional methods. We claim that I have done implication study, but actually those are not implication study. There has to be mapped correctly with person with one gender, person with another gender, then the same person continues survey in the next time period. Then only the mapping of its performance is rational and fair. Okay. Coming to endogenous bias, studies often fail to account for the self-selection of women into better firms or sectors. So uh, while we address the data, we can actually discuss a bit on this. Most of the study, women, what we have taken, or even if it is a large scale data for our model, if my model is on manufacturing only, again, I have also filtered the data to Uttarakhand, to only Bihar, or to only Delhi, or to only southern states. So somewhere I am actually breaking the the approaches of weights assigned to each of the individual who are surveyed. So when I forcefully narrow down the data to my requirement, I made some self-selection, and that will raise some problems of sample selection bias. And another aspect is self-selection is also going to lead us the problem of endogeneity bias. There are two ways of endogeneity bias. One is also one of this is through self-selection. Okay. So and so we'll discuss once you go through this data. Maybe in the data itself, I may mention about the endogeneity problem. Then coming to intersectionality, sir. Sir, I have a follow-up. Sir, how do we perform this self-selection and they concentrate themselves to some specific sector or firms? And how it would lead to intersectionality bias? Okay. How will we track it? Okay. First of all, when I say endogeneity bias, you should first try to understand that the error term is correlated with the explanatory variables, isn't it? With the explained variables. Error term is actually correlated. So that means in your model, your error term is not independent. It should be independent. So suppose I say in the model, let's say I wanted to calculate, then only it will be easier. I wanted to calculate, farm performance, farms specifically in manufacturing, and that too in manufacturing, we are considering those who are from one state. Let it be one state only. Let it be only Bihar. Bihar manufacturing, and why I am doing it? It is for my department, for my purpose of research. So what I have filtered, um, I have taken the data from the large scale all India data. Now the data is covered based on proportional weight or probability weight to different states. So when I say it is still only state and Bihar is selected, still it is representing. Still it is representing. I'll discuss this in my while we'll address the while we'll have our practical session or our data handling session. So my context here is explaining how self-selection is actually creating problem. One, so by structure, the error term should not affect your model when you have taken the data randomly. It is more or less random, or with your assignment of some weights, proper weights, your error term is not impacting much. Is it okay so far as regression model is concerned? Now, forcefully, you have narrowed out data to state it at this moment. But now the data is claiming data as per our Government of India record, they say it is representative of the state. So you have no problem when you have filtered or only taken a state. But within the state, now you have forcefully taken only gender as female double equal to 2. That is the code you have taken. You have only filtered female, not male. You wanted to work with female data. So now nowhere in the data, the Government of India or the software agencies claim that if you only filter one of the genders is going to represent the entire weight. Okay, so first error is forceful retainment of some of the variables which we want. In our model, we want some of the variables. We do some study based on our literature that these are important variables, these are control variables. Okay, but forcefully have narrowed down our variables. In that context, in manufacturing sector, only women we have picked up. Now, women, how it is going to create, the problem so far as if my y variable is performance. My y is a function of, x1, x2, x3, and so on, plus epsilon. So why is my performance? Performance, I'm just trying to equate performance is a function of women, but maybe women's education. Within that, all my persons who have responded, all the enterprises and their responses are taken from the either from the manager or from the most responsible person of the firm. Okay, so we counted how many years of operation of the firm, and then what is the education qualification of the firm, of the leader, of the manager of the firm. That is still missing in most of the data sets. And we also counted their location. We counted their credit related information. Now, any single variable now we are going to relate with performance is amounting to certain degree of indigeneity. Why is it so? You say that there should be both side explanation to explain the indigeneity problem. We are saying that error term is no more independent. Okay? No more independent. It's still correlated. Now, how is it so? Suppose I say the credit loans taken from bank has loans taken from bank is directly linked to performance. Somehow it proved from our model that those who have got their loans from the bank, formal institutions, are performing better. Now another counter argument is there. Those who have been taken loan are also performing better. That's counter argument. But it is proved that the firm which is performing better has higher probability of taking loans from the formal institutions. That's called engineering problem. The firms which are performing better have higher probabilities of taking loans from the formal institutions. They have better records, they have better bargaining power, they are usually located, in good places. Hence, the probability of getting loans better. Because you have already narrowed down the model to specific domain and that to specific states. There are high chances of correlation with your dependent variable. Okay, so dependent giving weights. If we give weights at the disagreed level, weights are not given. That's not representing the entire. So some other options are there how to control those and degenerate problems. Okay, at this moment, let's clarify the context, then we'll come back to the tutorial sections. Okay, I'll use it, discuss some of the things. But in cross-sectional settings, let me argue one more point. When it has time dimensions, there are strong problem of ambiguity. At a cross-sectional point of view, we have taken survey from one at a point of time, and no one can prove that farm performance is actually linked to, or farm performance is a function of formal period is fine. Formal period is a function of farm performance. It takes time. It takes into account time dimensional. It is possible to be related if you are counting different time period. The same unit is still taking loans in different time period. Okay. Whoever is having trouble, do let me know. It's an interesting thing. Otherwise, just reserve it. I'll clarify. There will be no problem. I'm just trying to say, if you're working with cross-sectional data, problems of indigeneity is near about zero. You need not bother for indigeneity because it doesn't have time intermissivity. Yes, by argument to understand the fact that it is correlated, both are correlated. But since the same unit is not taking loans in different time periods, we are only concentrating particular time period, we hardly bother for indigeneity. Basically, we can't get the relation over the. You can prove the relationship over the time. Another unit might have taken. So why should I bother? I have approached to a bank. Bank has given me loan. Why should I bother? That had it been the case that I am continuing over so many periods, I'm still going to the bank, and bank has already understood me. My face is already recognized, so bank should be very happily giving these loans. Bank not just counting my face, bank is also counting my entire kainat, okay, entire network. All right. So entire network is also observed. Hence, those who are working with some of the dimensionalities called social networking in the present. Right? One of our paper already published social networking, okay, and its connection with farm performance is going to be a standard in the present time. Okay, so one dimension observed given. We haven't actually linked social networking to farm performance. We only link social networking with healthcare issues, not with our paper was related to health. At what level we are talking about social networking? Social networking paper is here. Okay. And what level? Okay, it's the individual level only. Individual level. This is what the question. No, I am talking about the spatial boundary. Like, is it related to rural, urban? Everything. Entire India. Entire India data. But contextual social networking with healthcare intelligence, not with farm performance. Okay, farm performance can be thought of differently to the lens of social networking. All right, now, so intersectionality is also ignored. How far one aspect of the cross section is also link with another action, another section or another aspect. It is still ignored and it's very difficult to also connect. Organized sector under research till the time, since data is well structured for formal and formals are highly regulated, data is possible, anybody can collect the data and start thinking. Every international data mostly, it's available through either RBI, through WTO or through UN Comtrade. There are various channels where data is easily available. Your novelty lies with not thinking. You're thinking for the methodology. It's not with the idea. Idea is well tested in various forms. Hence, working with macro data is considered to be not that unique. Considered to be still it's another form of research. Anyway, I'm not commenting on micro versus macro. There are various interpretations. My single understanding is if you are linking some of the ideas to the ground level, you are bound to do field study. And most of the information government of India has already covered, so we'll be discussing through our data sets. So let's see. Some of the facts I just covered here and there, but I'm not citing anything at this moment. Let me mention you in my record, all the citations are there, but just for your knowledge that only 1% of women are entrepreneurs. Women are entrepreneurs in India, 3% as compared to 3% of men, and they are much below the global standard. Okay, so we need to study on women even with it more clarity, and 19 to 17%. So I made a mistake. 17 to 19%. Women are in the main board meeting, and they are considered to be the elite. Women who are actually making most of the decisions. They are still out of the women. Very less numbers are still taking decisions. What is the source of this data? Okay, there are various sources. Each of the sources are different. This is what I will say. You miss this. I am not citing because those sources are from newspapers only from newspapers. So since I'm starting the lecture on gender in form of one, so I have to confirm myself that we should work on women. Okay, that is the context. And somewhere they are saying it's not 79%. In the global average is 30%. So that way, Indian average is not that bad in my understanding. But newspaper claims very differently. Though it is 17%, but it's still very less because they are not that effective. Their voices are not counted. So there are various views. I'm just including some of the one. This is not our conference presentation. This is not our journal paper communication. This is just to pitch here that we should work on people. Okay, we should work on people. And some of the facts is completely erratic. You can correct me based on this.
But if women are interested to not work in a corporate force, then what to do? It is not
Okay. Coming to that. Well, anyway, that's a good question. If a female is not interested to work in corporate world, then why should we bother for working on women? And even if it is their representation is lesser, why should we bother? Because they're not interested to work. Is it? There should be counter argument here. This cannot be accepted.
Percentage around 15 or 16% is females are not interested in working. But this is the reason that there is less number of women in unorganized.
So why should I buy this? Why should I say that this is the reason? Women are interested. Who are saying that they are not interested? They are interested to work. Okay, coming to this. Okay, if they are not interested, first of all, which categories of women are there? Which type of employment are there? This is nowhere counted in the employment definition. Okay, so they are not
going down.
Not because of that. Is it? Voluntary employment is nowhere in the definition of employment calculation. voluntary employment and another unemployment. Which one? In the unemployment definition, in the full employment definition, voluntary employment is not there. Another frictional. Structural should be there because of different structure, different units, sectors, and structural specific. Frictional is also not found. Okay, so if these two are not there, of course I can understand the fact that women are not interested, hence, their contribution so far as these numbers are concerned is lesser. But why it is so less? Why did the candidates are not interested? By gender, we represent 50%, right? So by gender to the total population, it's 50%. So their contribution should be much higher. And if it is possible in other countries, why it is not possible in our country? That's the context.
To our country, we have to also look all the social aspects which are restricting women from participating in such kind of jobs. We cannot straightforward say that women are not interested in corporate jobs. We are not giving them the opportunity to go there and participate.
Maybe the corporate structure is not conducive to their nature of work. May not be suitable to their requirement. There are many reports coming from here and there. The work environment is not suitable. So anyway, but view is that they are underrepresented. That is for sure.
That cannot be the major reason behind why the percentage of women is very less in corporate sector.
So there are long hours of work. Then they are giving work to family members. The children, none.
Basically, one simple answer is work-life balance is becoming difficult.
But it is for everyone, no?
No, not for men.
No, one assumption behind this is that female is bound to do the household chores or household chores. So who is saying that they are the one to take care of the household activities? So the assumption is wrong. So far as social fabrics is concerned, yes, so far as social fabrics is concerned, it is true. But as a researcher, our assumption is wrong. Anyway, as a researcher, we noted very clearly that they are underrepresented. One of the facts, maybe, as you suggested, is right. They may not prefer these formal jobs because of some reasons. So whether we can able to correct those reasons or not, how far correcting these reasons is pressing the particular concerned unit, is it reflecting in terms of productivity? These are all constructs where we can think for further research. Okay.
So female is interested, but the most important difficulty is access to finance. Around 46% farms, women rate farms, they are difficult to get access.
Okay, let us estimate that. Okay, it's here only. Is it only around 50%? Even much more than that. Okay, much more than that. Okay, in our paper also we have already proved that especially in informal setup, getting loan sanction is very tough, very tough. Okay, so let's discuss this, and once we go for estimation with the original data, you will enjoy one more additional point.
When writing a research paper or a thesis, can we write the newspaper, cite the newspapers?
Yes, we can cite them, but those are not for scientific ones. You can cite it to prove your point. It is in popular media, it is in popular discussion. People have already given certain directions to it, but those are not scientific.
So because there are certain
They're opinion based.
news volumes are biased, kind of. We cannot cite.
Yes, therefore I said, suppose you are writing this, women are women prefer not to work in Bangalore office, rather they want to have their own business. Okay, especially in beading making industry. But beading making industry, Bangalore, sorry, Golf industry. Yeah. Okay, so far as any informal, maybe plastics making, for for some designs which are using plastics, right? So in that case, some citation is given. Citation, there is no such study published in journal. Only newspaper, some newspaper might have covered. And why newspaper is covered and not, it is not of our, our approach to validate. Okay. So our only concern is if I am going to write something further, I have to depend on. I can criticize that view or I can buy that, but I have to refer. Then only someone else will say, yes, there exists some evidences where this sector where women are preferring not the better, formal job, they actually prefer to attach with the home. Okay, some references are required, but in the references, as you all know, at the end we are supposed to cite the journals. So citation is not required. You simply written you have written in bracket that Times of India, for example, Times of India, then here. So it need not be taken to the list of references.
So we can also say that we can cite standard newspapers, not the lower ones.
Again, there are debates. There is no question of standard newspapers. Whichever newspaper are in front of us are actually called standard. Okay, as for the Press Bureau of India, PBI is okay of India. These are all standard. Whether it is biased, whether it is not biased, it is not of our views. I should not be bothering much for us. So far as writing papers are concerned. Yes, you wanted to be an activist, you want to correct this one, there are different journeys. So you can raise this in your writing also. You can mention that this. Again, another newspaper article that this is not correct, or rather the interpretation should have been different. Somebody says that women are not working and they are not efficient. They simply want to mix leisure hours in home. That is why they prefer to work with work-life balance. Work-life balance simply is a fashion. Okay, if this type of word somebody is carrying, that's to validate, right? In another set of arguments. So another one will also follow that. No, this is complete rubbish. We should not say this. In my understanding, women are actually doing better job. They actually prefer, not just preferring, they're bound to prefer work-life balance because the new generation is on their hand. Without them, it is not possible. New and the old generation both are on their hand. So they are justifying the economy. It's beyond GDP, beyond economy perspectives where women's roles are important. So the way of opinion, these are called opinionated articles. They are not called research articles. Okay, so you need not my final suggestion is you need not cite, but if you don't get anything, newspaper is a better direction to cite. Okay, but journal editors may not treat them well. They simply say that it's based on another opinion, but the person who has written is a standard person. Is a person who has been writing and is famous in this field. So that way it is acceptable. Okay. If more the times I have been saying I can prove that women are not working and they prefer not to work, then that would be also a pattern. Whatever dialectics were actually coined, that became theory. That became theory over the time. So theory is shaping dialects is fine, but dialectics are also shaping theory. That is most important. We have seen the versions of Karl Marx and other Durkheim. Okay, so I should not go with this. Let's proceed with these some facts that starting from these as of 2023-24, 27.2% of unincorporated proprietary enterprises in India are owned by women. Now, this number as compared to formal one, it's huge, right? Formal is very less, whereas informal it is much higher. The same point which we have been saying over last 10-15 minutes, that women prefer to work work attached with their home, then their number is more than that of informal sector. Okay. So, in unorganized manufacturing sector, this is all unincorporated proprietary enterprises. We need to check this one carefully. We need to check this one, whether it is unorganized or it is informal or unaccounted or unregistered. Okay, those terms should be verified very carefully. Is it enterprise, or it is farm, or it is industry, or it is an activity center, or it is just a sector? Why should I call it as an enterprise? So some clarification should be mapped very clearly while proceeding for writing articles. Okay, women make up 43% of informal manufacturing workers, yet they dominate low quality, low pay jobs, and 93% are in a BD. इसलिए that is the reason why I was referring to BD. Somewhere I have written BD. Okay, BD and tobacco industry. 93% are attached in BD and tobacco industry, 76% in apparel, and 67% textiles. Now, when it is BD making out of the tendu leaves, I think that leaf variety. So that leaf is usually available in tribal pockets or even in rural areas. So and it's very less expensive to make BD, and then it requires more manpower. Okay, so because of that, probably these um, persons who are staying or attached with home are more connected to these particular units. Okay, so let's proceed. Hence, the challenges are the nature of employment and their vulnerabilities, rural self-employment or care burden, financial inclusion and enterprise support, pay disparities and inequalities, or other forms of support structure. Now, while discussing about this care burden, one dedicated data set we have surveyed by Government of India, and number of units are more than 2 lakhs. Number of persons surveyed for that is more than 2 lakhs. So that's called time use survey. Okay, those who are not acquainted much, I think this is higher scope of publication. Okay, time use survey. So they have counted each individual and their time use in every hour from 4 a.m. in the night till 4 a.m. on the next day, next night. So that will be also useful. I'm not going to discuss that time use survey at this moment, but if you are into unorganized setup, you wanted to write your work related to that, I think time use survey will also account you or give you better direction. Okay. So some newspaper citations. Unorganized sector contributes 45% of GDP as per the Tribune newspaper, and somewhere they say from the citing the PLFS data set that if we include the unorganized sector very carefully, our GDP numbers is going to be much higher. Okay? And around 86% of those employed have work arrangements which lie outside formal contractual frameworks. So some of those reportings are there and not actually emphasizing much on it. That can be referred later. India's informal sector, the feeder economy beating. So it is not just not just providing productivity or providing any output. It also feeds larger segment of the economy. It provides huge degree of employment. So another one, the informal economy gives us sustainability. We should strengthen the lives of its workers. Given the Indian context, it is most important. Okay. So anyway, we are not discussing much. So we'll be finding some of its structure, how far their economic activities are defined, how far they are utilizing different resources, how far they are taking risk, and is there any scope for innovations or not, and it's innovation related to investment further or not, then ownership and governance, then continuity and their sustainability, again related to the economic activities. We'll also map them if time permits. Then is there any social and ethical responsibilities of these entities? Formal wise, they have already made stringent rules about social and ethical responsibilities, but in informal sector, still it is largely missing. So, how far all the units are connected to their customers, communities, and then balancing profit and other aspects. So, is it just the profit motive, or it is for the common interest? So, those are all perspectives while we read the enterprises, whether it is formal or it is informal. Okay, and then some other aspects like revenue generation, etc. I think I'm not emphasizing, just in 1 minute I've given all those directions where our variables are covered. So type of enterprises, how we need to look at micro, small, medium. Then some other types are defined in these data sets about private or public or joint operation based, or it is formal or informal. Then how far it is, what degree of informality is attached. Then it is operated at primary level or secondary level or tertiary level. Then whether it is proprietary based, I was just emphasizing this, proprietary based or partnership based, and or it is simply a limited company where there is no question of proprietary or partnership is defined. Then it's for profit or it is non-profit motive. All sort of aspects are there, okay, within the data sets. So why informal sector is important? I think some of the facts I've discussed. I'll unfold again these aspects with the data. Okay, so let's not specify. Literature gives mixed options related to different, perspectives, such as some modern economists find through the channel of survival approaches where enterprise is more important, where informal enterprise is most important, whereas a developmental perspective and its theories emphasize, I think, font is very less. Is it still visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So I'm not spending more time. I will be sharing these slides with you. Rather, the hands-on sessions are going to be more useful. Okay. So, so here we are saying, where how the data set or Indian enterprises are set up. So at the bottom, the earnings are very low and their dependency is very low, where informal sector is most relevant. At the top of the pyramid, mostly confined with the formal sector. Okay, and hence you can imagine their contribution actually to the economy is very less. Okay, so far as Indian economy is concerned, and contribution in the sense not only for GDP, in terms of developmental indicators. So here it is actually whose developmental indicators. I mean, in terms of employment, in terms of social security. Okay, whose contribution is more? It's I'm saying unorganized enterprises, and their contribution is more towards developmental perspectives than that of the organized sectors. In most of the literature, from the literature point of view, two theorists we have just cited, where the developmental perspectives are largely compromised in organized sectors. First of all, 50% of the women are not, at least 50% of the 50% not at all preferring to work because of some of the problems we cited. There are some other way where the literature, looked at. I'm actually referring from the point of view of quality and quantity of entrepreneurship. Quantity-wise, for sure, we will account for its GDP numbers, or from the from the formal units. Whereas coming to the informal sector and its contributions, so far as quality aspects are concerned, it's addressing many of the developmental indicators. So where we wanted to define through I think I've also mentioned its author name who actually framed there are nuanced relationship between entrepreneurship and economic development. I think a couple of minutes back I was also discussing about this contribution of unorganized enterprises. Anyway, I'm not emphasizing all these again, more or less repetitive. So mostly literature mentions that whether it is necessity driven or opportunity driven, the enterprises are in organized set of more the formalities, they are mostly opportunity based. More progress is expected. Whereas in one of our paper, this is from our paper only, it's and me. We define that in Indian, from the perspective of gender, it is actually largely driven by necessity. They want to run home-based business, okay, because they want to feed their child, feed their people. Okay, they want to get very basic income. So, so we define those things. Given the time in the leisure hour, if you ask any questions out of it, I think the PPT might have been shared. I'll be happy to address. So far as value added concerned, again, some author mentioned that which matrices of value added is more important, whether you are accounting the value added through their profit or you are actually accounting value added through their employment. Profit divided per capita employment, okay, or you are actually accounting any other qualitative aspects of wealth creation. So some literature mention these technological aspects, but still technological aspects are also mentioned by some authors. So I'm just mentioning all sort of things where you can think further, okay, and then include your dimension and can ask questions whether it is possible from ASI data or from ASUS data. Okay. So somewhere one article mentioned a couple of articles, but we are referring most importantly these two Popola, T.S. Popola and Sahu's article, P.P. Sahu's article, published in 2012. It is about subcontracting. It's about somewhere linked to proxy women. Though our seventh amendment of the parliament specifically gives the rights to the women and their decision making, and starting from the parliamentary representations, so 50% of the women must be represented. Okay, in lower parliamentary setups like your sarpanch level or at panchayat level. So 50% is actually is required. But in central level it is 33%. Okay, still 36% is not filled up. Now imagine if a women, board member is there, women will think about their perspective. Similarly, if in village setups, if women is not deciding, of course, what type of institutions to be built cannot be justified correctly to the society. So women can give some direction. But in reality, government in the recent time has been trying its best to reserve women in the seat for the seat, but the decisions are taken otherwise. Decisions are taken by another. So one of the channels you can follow from the Sarpanch article, Sarpanch चल रहा है ना वो फुलेरा गांव, Panchayat, sorry, Panchayat is one of one of the program, one of the what is called serials, where you can check the exact representation of women, how women is actually making decision. Okay, so let's not discuss much on it. Otherwise, can you share this article here? Yes, article. This one? Yes, sir. With you? Yes, sir. Later? On right now? Later. Okay. Sure. Okay. All right. So similarly, I've already started mentioning about subsistence based employment, based entrepreneurship versus opportunity based entrepreneurship. It is related again to their scale of work. scale of working. So we'll unfold those discussions. Another one is owners' education, then sustainability, how far they are sustainable in their business. So sustainable by definition in the present time we relate to environment, but actually sustainability can be explained through how far we are continuing our work. Okay, so how far the business which is taken out by women is still sustained. Sustained means it's in operation. So 0 to 3 years considered to be nascent one, 4 to 7 years is developing, and 8+ years considered to be a sustainable one. So if you can prove, article a small business is still sustainable, even if there are large extent of, challenges, still it is sustainable is a big deal. Okay, so I think I have already hit 3:30. So we have to now start your data. Let me quickly yes. Okay. One person starting, Rohit. Start.
So how to check whether the enterprise is sustainable or not?
How to
Check.
Yes, leave it to me. Leave it to me. I'll show it to the data. Okay. So okay. Next.
You talked about the informal sector and you have given overview of the literature that you have done. And in that you have showed that the informal sector is kind of hidden from the economy and its sustainability, but the people who are working in the sector are at the subsistence level. Their living standard is not improving. But the people who are working in this sector, they are or they might be creating some surplus value. Where is it going and who and how can we track it? If we can track it, then is there any specific methodology behind it or some work has been done on it?
The catch here is surplus value. So surplus value.
No, not surplus value. There might be some benefits or
But I'm just interpreting some benefits they derive out of their operation. This is what is your cross, right?
yes.
So how far that can be tracked first, and how far we can able to estimate those surplus value also, and can also suggest in a better way for the entrepreneur, the enterprises to be more sustainable, isn't it? So we have limitations in that regard. Only
Not enterprises specifically, but I am talking with for the point of view, for the workers' point of view, not the entrepreneurs. They are benefiting,
no, not necessarily. Anyway, I got your point. So we need to check whether these aspects are validated through the data or not, existing data or not. If it is not there, then we have to go for field application. But the points which you have raised actually are limited in the data. That's a straight answer. So we'll check with the given data. Okay.
Suppose there is data, not in India, but in some other country or somewhere in the world. Is there any specific process or methodology or something through which we can track this?
Yeah, should be. Based on, you first of all, you need to get the data or need to find out whether data is there or not. Clarify your question. You want the data related to these aspects, or you wanted the methodology to estimate
I
it?
don't want the data, I want the methodology.
Methodology.
We'll be collecting the data.
Okay. So you need to do a systematic, review of literature for the methodology on this. So there are some channels called.
I've been searching for it, but I couldn't find anything.
But I'll show you in the break time. I'll show you how many articles specifically discussing on methodology of this. That's called bibliometric analysis. If it is a complete different question, then I'll leave the room.
Because we are wishing to discuss everything in open mind.
Who said? We are discussing. We are discussing in open mind with certain limitations.
So, like, have you ever come up in the paper which says that women decision makers are more prone to corruption or negative effects?
Yes, there are. There are papers. Women owned enterprises are less corrupt. Women proprietors are less corrupt than men.
I'm saying the
That is
opposite.
When this is true, that means your point is proved. So there are papers which proven this aspect of corruption vis-a-vis gender. Other paper is there any specific context where it's in the formal enterprises, largely it is reported. But still, in which side or not, I cannot give you a correct answer if I haven't done research on it. Okay, so let's come back. It's a good point that I can think of, and maybe I'll find out something and reach to you. Okay, still here's a sequel question, right?
I would also love to get some insights from you in that methodology.
That is why I'm here. Okay, I will clarify. Okay.
Will be sharing it in this class?
In the class. In the classroom. So similarly, good that those how to capture their valuations of the enterprises. This is more challenging, okay, and how best we can able to estimate to be understood. And some of the papers we have already done it. I'll share those papers. So it's really not like for necessity enterprise and opportunity enterprise. How we have actually defined these two? Is it based on their performance only? Is it beyond the performance? So I will refer that article and send it to you. You can easily find out from the one paragraph from the methodology section. You'll find out what are the methodology the authors have taken to define this. Okay. If it is necessity based, of course, the company might not have targeted just to increase profit. They might have thought of their entity, their employees, and their other functions. Okay, so we'll go through. Similarly, caste networks also functions where where enterprise and their performance can be defined. Location also matters, whether it's a fluid location, it's a static location. Have you heard about fluid business? Fluid location and business. Business cannot be run just in one place. Can be run in multiple places. Same business can be run or should be run in multiple places. Ferry wala. Ferry wala सुने हर एक माल 10 ferry wala 10 रुपया. Okay. So those are the or seasonal enterprises. So they tap the benefit based on season. They used to be migrating from one place to another place and find the best avenues. And then the per capita return is higher than that of at the starting point of time. Okay, so similarly, ownership structure, whether ownership structure is accounting the complete family or is accounting more representations. So that way performance also varies. Okay, mixed activities is just not the one way where operation is made. Likewise, those who invest in stock market, most of the suggestions are given related to stock market. Is that better to diversify your portfolio? This is the common suggestion given by most of the analysts, that you diversify your portfolio and your return is considered to be robust and the extent of risk is less. Right. Similarly, if your operation is mixed kind, especially in informal enterprises, the performance is considered to be different. If it is one particular activity, then performance is different. If and whether it is sustainable, if it is mixed, then enterprise is considered to be more sustainable. If it is just one operation, of course, the degree of risk is higher. So the sustainability is also questioned. All right, or compromised.
What are the kind of activities in India? Is it mixed kind of activities?
Which one? Which one? I missed.
So what is the pattern of activities in India in the informal sector? Is it like enterprises are doing mixed activities or they are doing some specialization kind of work?
Mixed. Mostly in informal sector it is mixed. Even in okay, look at some of the even the shops selling groceries. They are selling medicines also in some of the shops in India. Though they are not allowed at all. By rule, they are not strictly not allowed. They are selling electric bulbs.
If we talk about any specific industry, let's take example of any industry like.
Let it be watchmaking company.
Take example of media, those garment making industry, where what we can see is most of the informal enterprises are specifically doing any a single particular activity. They're specialized in that and just doing that kind of work only.
Okay. True. Like, even if you see bigger enterprises in India, bigger organized enterprises also, their farms, their their factories are not necessarily all organized. The farm is organized, but the ancillary industries are not organized. So they used to take, the products from informal sectors. So, so some of the unit they must have taken from a specific, factories. Some of the other one they might have taken from another unit. So they are more or less specialized. Those who have better connection with the organized sector. But those are even very established informal sectors. They are also having only single activity. But by mixed activities, it is observed to run with mixed activities, they are sustaining for more time. The extent of catastrophe is lesser. My point of mentioning here is to identify sustainability. Sustainability. So, just operating at a single activities is good, or operating with mix is good. There are mixed response. Those who are operating with single one, it also better. Some of them are doing better. Those that are operating with mixed one, they are also doing better. But that is why I'm suggesting, if you are having the data and you have some responses related to single activity or multiple activities, then you can think of how to prove, what to prove. You cannot have one judgment over it. There is no single answer. It's okay? Okay, so the gender diversity, farm performance, and sectoral context, more or less I have discussed. I'm not discussing more. So our constructs based on these three important indicators. So sector character emphasizing some structural differences through the data. Resource-based theory. Okay, still we are into theory because this lecture is 2 hours. Specifically mentioned theoretical framework on this. If you look at our schedule, it's mentioned as theoretical framework. But I'm not going to stretch more on this. I'll leave it to you to read. So diverse human capital is a source of sustained competitive advantage. As so far as resource-based theory is concerned. Hence, in most of the enterprises, we should have diverse human capital. It should not be with only one type. Only one type. So, hence, in the
how can you guarantee that more women and more will bring more diversity?
Okay, where am I saying I am guaranteeing? I'm saying I'm not guaranteeing. I'm only saying if diversity is there, this is good for the company.
But gender diversity is different from diversity in the computer.
Human capital diversity. Human capital diversity, of course, okay. Gender diversity, okay. Oh, your
Like
point is
suppose a woman and a man, both are patriarchal. So the future converging that, though they are gender, they are different genders. They are future patriarchal. So
use a patriarchal.
patriarchal. Suppose they think in a patriarchal mindset. Both are patriarchal.
Suppose, good that you have used that word suppose. Otherwise, I won't have listened to kick on to. Okay, if both are patriarchal, then
Then even if you are another gender, the huge diversity is not there.
okay.
Perspectives are not diverse.
Okay, first of all, my first line of explaining this is to prove sustained competitive advantage. So, competitive, first of all, we all know very well what is called competitive, what is called non-competitive. So, competitive doesn't mean they are actually, their gross value added or the profit is very high. Competitive does mean they are actually justifying the society through their framework. So, even if organized industry, it is well recorded, but the purpose is not just to mark profit. Literature suggests that if it is diversity is followed, human capital diversity is followed. Human capital diversity again not just by gender representation only, it is also by their level of education. Okay, and their societal representation in different indicators by health as well. If those diversity are maintained, then it is considered to be more competitive. The organization is more holistic. can attach. So attach better goals so far as sustainability is concerned. Okay, next point is actually on gender diversity contributes complementary skills, perspectives and networks. Now imagine in this institute, imagine this class, we would have only scholars from JD. And those are only in, they are all in fourth year of their PhD. Got my point?
Yes, sir.
Minus Qs. We are not referring to Qs at this moment. He is not in fourth year of PhD. That's why it's of course minus Qs. Okay. Even minus me. I was also from JD. But anyway, not referring to that aspect. We're not spending more time on it. But my idea is, imagine they're all in fourth year. They have had a very strong bargaining power because they are in the same batch. They have shared common, time, and then by their age group is also not very different. Then it would have been very difficult to take the lecture. The moment you started saying like gender diversity may not work well because they might there is a possibility of patriarchal norms or assumption in their mindset. So whatever the point you say is actually not correct. So it's not just Piyush who is going to say, all four years सब वही नहीं. So I think everybody is having a reserved mind already, a mind which is to large extent reserved by their cohort, by their network. So things are not going to work. So in a system, I have referred a case which is not raising any sustainable competitive outcome. I'm only saying that in any company or any factory or any organization, these are actually answer for the organizational behavior. Organizational, those who study organizational behavior papers, etc., they used to mention this. So company considered to be, or the enterprise or unit is considered to be more sustainable where we have more diversity. So they actually, when diversity there will be some extent of need for skill mapping. There will be some extent of further networking. Otherwise, if networking are already skills, all are very skilled. Okay, there will be high possibility of ego class and high possibility of breaking the unit. Okay, over supply of over number of resources might create some disturbances. So that has already been tested or proved. So I'm not going to mention all sort of things. Hence, role of gender is more important. Another one is institutional theory, where wherever we look at the data, we need to actually cross check from the perspective of their gender norms, laws, institutional framework, and and also legal mandates. So which Companies Act is it Factory Act 1956 is followed or still the updated 2013 is followed? We need to, which suggests that there should be at least one female director. We have our own project running where these people are attached. Suma and Urmi are attached, where we are actually working on this aspect, role of female directors, female in enterprises. That's an international one. So it's still running, and and so it's not just the legal norms that matters. It also matters whether the societal norms are also followed correctly or not. Hence, in most of the explanation for the organized sector, organized industries, the last point is highly compromised. Other points are well justified, but the last one is very difficult regarding social norms, understanding other rules, informal rules. Even in formal sector, even in this is IIT is considered to be a formal institution. It is a public institution, a formal institution, but there are many informal activities going on. The formal is not formal completely. It's informal. There are so many informal. The person who is going to serve us tea after a certain time is completely informal. Isn't it? He's an informal vendor. And when I say formal mixed with informal, then I have to take care of certain problems with the vendor. So vendor might not be getting the sufficient amount of payments. So who is going to guarantee the payment? it might be the case that the person who is having better catch of holding resources can exploit those persons who are informal within the formal setup. So exploitation is expected. So to curtail the exploitations, Government of India has also devised certain rules and regulations. We cannot just hire the vendor like this randomly. I cannot say, "Aajao, wahan pe dukaan pe tum roll bechte ho, aajao, aajao." We cannot do that. We have some rules. We have to go with tendering. Like in hostels, we have different informal setups. Like canteens are there. They are operating throughout here. They cannot just run more than 1 year as per our rule. And which they have entered here with certain process, tendering process. Those tenders are open for 15 days. Call for tenders are open for 15 days. Okay. So similarly, almost all setups where government takes those into account, it attached with certain norms, rules and regulations. Those rules and regulations are not necessarily defined them to be organized. Still, they are still even that company canteen is running for over 1 year. Still, that cannot be mentioned as a formal or organized unit. Sailors are from the day. I mean, over last 8 years, I have seen Dukanwala, the shopkeeper is still there. The same shop is still there. So they are not organized. Just because of time dimension, they cannot be defined as organized. Or just because of tax they are paying, they are not defined as organized. So we need to carefully understand what are the norms and regulations. So if your thinking is too rich, you have already checked all sort of things. If you can map all those things together and synthesize, that would be a good article. Okay, so it's a point. Human capital theory, I think I have indirectly mentioned. So we'll be discussing starting from gender diversity somewhere, emphasizing to the data, then to farm performance and some of the control factors we already discussed. So hypotheses or the questions I have said, just to think about it. It's not my paper where I'm supposed to say lecture hour. So I've said some hypotheses where based on my earlier explanation, you can frame certain questions. Gender diversity in the workforce positively influence farm performance in the organized sector. Slash unorganized sector, both can be thought of. The effect of gender diversity on farm performance is moderated by sector type or maybe through organized or unorganized sector. Female ownership in the unorganized sector has a weaker positive impact on farm productivity compared to organized sector. So, since each of the questions I have stated here is not fully proven with its direction, there is no clear one side direction of any of the question, hence it is still a research question. Hence it is still both have plus and minus result. Okay, I mean this can be true, this may not be true. Hence these are all research questions. Innovation mediates the relationship between gender diversity and farm performance. It is mentioned in many articles that the other gender, the female, are not that innovative. Okay, are also articles they are saying in some setups females are in disaggregated level females are very innovative, especially while looking at uh, dadi ki kitchen, dadi ki rasoi. When we see आजकल चल रहा ना, if you look at supply delivery देता है Zomato. Zomato with the home kitchen. There are so many home kitchen facilities in Bangalore and in Delhi and in other places. So home kitchen is more productive than that of another, and where it is supported by female only. And the innovation with mixing with different spices for the food is quite different. If that is possible, then they can also be more innovative. Okay, so it depends on where they are actually looking at. Okay, so anyway, there are many interpretations I have mentioned. So possible factors we are going to emphasize in our work through legal mandates, cultural norms, labor informality, skilling gaps, infrastructural deficits, etc. In our control factors. So we have now onwards. I'm going to discuss about ASI and ASUS. Okay, not JASUS. So ASUS data. I'll start with ASUS, then I'll go for ASI. ASI in any case, will be emphasized by Professor Pavel. And then I'll also discuss something on our gravity model. Gravity model at the end. Let me start with this discussion. At the end, we'll discuss on gravity model. I think I've already included. Yes, introduction to the gravity model. I think it's time is still 4:30, right? So it's fine. So, so what to do? I'll start with. I'll also show you ASI with the same approaches I followed for ASUS. Is it okay? So let me connect quickly the data. You have the access to ASUS data. How many of you know where to get the ASUS data? Just raise your hand. One. ASUS annual survey of unorganized sector enterprises. Okay, full form बोल गया अच्छा लगा है ना? So anyway, so I have ASUS. So that's in short called ASUS data. I think will be useful. Let me start connecting, and I didn't deliberately share that raw data with you. And from now onwards, this hour as well as the next hour will be completely tutorial based, will be practical based. Is it okay? So I've given enough background about gender, performance, and mostly my words are from developmental perspectives, not from growth perspectives. Okay, so let's discuss something on ASUS. Where to get it? Should I explain? Okay. How many are interested to listen and to work in future? How many are interested to listen carefully for ASUS data and work in future, or maybe now? That's almost okay. Fine. So here is the ASUS data. You have to download. You can quickly download on your own. It is not going to take more time. So you have to type NSS data download, or straight away type ASUS ASUS data set. So here is the source: annual survey of unincorporated sector enterprises. So it directs for all possible sources of data set government provides, and so also we'll be explaining about annual survey of industries, and Professor Pavel will be using this in replicating some of the works. And here is the enterprise survey. It's now the difference between these and these. This is on informal enterprises. This is formal enterprises. Okay, and ASI covers factory data, factory level data, whereas enterprises cover any form of enterprises which are not counted. Okay, annual survey of industries cover not industry, not just industry. They mean it is actually the factory which are supplying products to the industry. Is it okay? So enterprise data, I'll just open over here. I didn't get a chance to actually see this. After some time, I am actually looking this page. Anyway, so this is the one where you need to download annual survey of unincorporated sector enterprises ASUS up to 2023-24. But I'll be in the extraction and merging. I'll be using using 22-23 data. So you have to get the micro data. So where is the micro data and how it looks like? Those are doing for the first time. थोड़ा सा डरा देता हूँ. Let me scare you a bit. Why नहीं रहा? Okay, थोड़ा सा. Just the attempt to give you certain degree of thinking. It's not called dharana or scaring you, just to show you what are there, and it might derive you more interest for you to work. My pen drive is not working. So you can download in between. Start downloading here from the source. There get the micro data. if you are working from their macro, from their reports, those are simply called secondary data. If you are working using the micro data, it's from the raw data, they are actually called the micro data, or also called the primary data. Government of India gives the direct source of the data to the researchers to work without manipulation. So it asks for registration so that you can do it. If it is not possible at this moment, you can do it later. So I have my user ID and password. So once you add your call ID and email ID, etc., they will provide you the linkages for registration. So this is the X, C, A, and N. Now here is the source which we are trying to understand. Get the micro data. Now it will ask for how many participants, maybe any number you can mention, maybe our number 30 participants. So any number you can mention, then simply submit, you will get the data. This is the source of the data. Here is the source of the data. ASUS data can be downloaded from this source. So for your understanding, I'm just mapping those are doing for the first time. I have added this link in the group. Okay, so just give me a moment. So here is the link for their data set. So you can download, and rest of the things I'm going to tell from my record. So ASUS dataset is here, 22-23. I'll show you the raw data first, then I'll also show you how it works and how. Okay, so here is the raw data. I'll just open one raw data in front of you. Those who are doing for the first time only, just for the first time. This is how Ministry provides the data. So the coverage here itself is of around sending maybe okay. So last line is of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 20 lakhs. 20 lakhs. 20 lakhs. 20. Yes. 20 lakhs of entries are here. 20 lakhs of entry doesn't mean 20 lakhs enterprises. Usually by enterprises. Rows are enterprises. Okay. So there are some techniques where those are actually on the some of the rows where enterprises are not there. Their variables are mentioned in the row. In the row. Yes, we need to convert them. So in another round, I think it's already on my screen. This is the data set from health round. Last one is of 1,13,823. They are the 1,13,823 individuals who have responded to the questions. And how questions are like, how, which type of questions they have responded, and why they have responded, I cannot answer at this moment. Okay, so we need to carefully check how to decode this data to any software, and it is not possible to work with Excel. Let me make it very clear. Excel cannot able to handle these large scale data sets. We have to depend on data. This is 22-23. But on the portal which I guided is 22, 23, 24. The same format is followed. Okay. Is it okay? So next step is to so if you download, you will get all those. These are different blocks of information. So where to get these blocks? How blocks are defined? You also need to download from the site for their questionnaire. They call it as schedule, not questionnaire. Difference between questionnaire and schedule is that the questionnaire is considered to be at the very early stage of research, whereas schedule is considered to be very systematic, and where the questions are well tested through pilot survey. डाउनलोड तक सर टाइम जाएगा. एक सैंपल डाटा दे देता हूँ, तुम करो. ठीक है, मैं सैंपल दे रहा हूँ. अच्छा वो वाला बता. ठीक है. सो मैं लिंक शेयर कर दिया व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में. चेक. हाँ, व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में ये लिंक शेयर कर दिया. आगे ये वाला डाउनलोड करना. ये वाला you can see this screen also, right? Exactly. ये नहीं आएगा ना, क्योंकि you have not registered. You have to go back and register. This is with my name. Nester file.
I don't know how to use Nester.
You need not know. I'll tell you. Of course. I'll tell you. Okay, anyway, see here, ask good that he has reported this. Also install Nester. Okay, Nester in your system. Nester. Nester install. They are nowadays providing data through Nester. Oh, sorry, Nester Explorer. I'll share them. Just give me a moment.
You already have.
You have already attended, so some of them.
These are actually file download forever.
File will be downloaded if you open that file
On Nester Explorer.
Nester Explorer will be opened. So you have to install these. Then only you can see the Nester data. So let me also add you here. This is the one. Okay. So here is the file for Nester to be installed.
Can you repeat the need of this Explorer?
Nester, I'll show you how it works. Our ministries are nowadays for the ASI data as well as for MUSPI for other NSS data, they provide the data in converted format, in extracted format. So already in extracted format. Already.
For every year.
For recent years they are not providing, but for ASI data they are providing.
Extracted.
Extracted.
Oh.
Okay, but even if you get the extracted, still as a researcher you will stock somewhere. So to cross check whether it is
Sir,
correct
it
or
is
not.
not downloading.
Because you have not yet registered. Let me give you that thing first.
No, this is the I got this is
Not able to
the
download the
Nester Explorer.
So you have to install these first. Go to this and install. I have shared this link in our group. Just go to the website of this and install it. Then only you can able to download.
See that website only.
You cannot install. So .exe file. Not getting installed.
We are clicking it, it is not downloading.
Okay, what you do, you can just save it, save linkage, and download it, and then download it secure.
Cannot be downloaded securely.
Okay, maybe because of guest account only, maybe the case. I don't know, should not be restricted.
How many levels? There are 16 levels.
16 tables, 16 blocks or tables.
16 levels.
Labels. So all labels are required, may be required, may not be required. We need to understand that from our explanation. Some of the tables may be required, may not be required. So open your open these first. Where is it? One supplementary file, and then this open this file. The questionnaire. Questionnaire, transfer down for now. Okay, okay, good. Just give me a moment, I'll guide you where to download. No, this is not the one. It is the volume. Okay, yes. Volume 2 has this. This is just the report, but not the one. Just give me a moment. Volume 2, okay. So, is it working now? It is here only. Yes. Is it working?
Yes, sir. The nester.
Nester is working now. Okay, good.
We have to save the link and keep it.
Save as and then start installing. If things are not working directly, simply click on save as, then start installing. All right. Fine. Then here is the questionnaire which ASUS is actually framed. Annual Survey of Unincorporated Sector Enterprises is designed. So they start with the identifier variables. Then they discuss about where are the locations of those enterprises. Then they discuss about all the codes are given inside it. I'm just guiding. It's not possible to give you everything at this moment. So you just listen. In any case, these videos are recorded. So later on you can review and check. Then from these onwards, list of hamlet. NSS usually define the regions differently by hamlet group, by subgroups. So we need not worry for all sort of aspects. So now onwards, from 6 block onwards, they have started defining about particulars of establishment. So whether it is hired worker based establishment or own account based, which I was discussing about proprietorship. So if it is own account based, it is actually the proprietor. Then the number of establishment, etc. they define. Then hired worker they categorize into particulars of sampling establishment. Some other variables are also covered. Not going into the details at this moment. So we'll discuss maybe after the tea time. So, but I'll give you some all possible backgrounds. List of non-agricultural establishments are here. Non-agricultural establishment, and they are also defined as enterprises. Okay. And having 10 or more workers in the sample FSU fast stage unit, which they have covered wherever more than 10 and more workers are working. Okay. So there are some reasons of taking 10 and or more. But they are for sure. Reason being, they actually the ministry wants to cross check those units in later stage. Now onwards, ministry has a clear vision to map their survey, their responses in different time periods. Okay. So and
after that I took only the nester after extracting.
if it is opened in nester, that already it is the extracted one. I'll show you. Wait. Now probably you will ask me, sir, how to write a paper.
So how to write a paper, then how to submit it.
How to submit it. Wait. Okay, let me balance the lecture class and address to every query. Wait. I think in between you can explore. In some of the window, it must have been opened in zip file. Okay, zip file is there. So within the zip file, you'll see each of the blocks. Good that you have got it.
So how to get the status side of this?
Okay, within that it is there. All right, I'll come. So name and address, then description of the activities. Then what do you mean by activities? Type of ownership code, activities code. These are all given here. The codes are given. Like suppose type of ownership code, let us check it. Whether ownership is by society, non-government, trust, associations, club, body of individuals as one, or cooperative based, it is two, SSC based, it is three, or completely proprietary based by their own household. So this is or a single unit who claims that this is our propriety. We have proprietary based forms, then that is four. Then partnership based, then government department is owning or PSU is owning or non-government company, seven or others. Okay. So similarly, registration type and NIC classification. For your clarity, for the earlier rounds of NSS, they used to follow the previous, not just quickly, I'm just forgetting the exact year where they were following 2004 based NIC classification. But now 2008 based, 8 NIC classification based is followed to define the nature of activities and the industries. Why classification is required? Only because we don't know. If you keep on mapping the activities or the industries or the factories, it will be very tough. Suppose somebody is providing water to me, water wise, whoever is producing, we have a clear or clarity on this so far as organized industry is concerned. But somebody is providing the service reaching to me in a formal campus in an informal way, which broad classification it should follow. And somebody has given to me and somebody is opened and said to me that, sir, please take it, So another service somebody is also providing. Okay. And maybe, some services provided by you by sitting here, okay, accessing the resources. So we will be highly confused to which category we must put them. So government of India, along with the world, with IMF, with World Bank, different activities are mapped, and that classification has been to a large extent converged and then specifically mentioned in one of the classification called NIC 2008 classification. And once we are working with this classification, you can work with the world. Any data in the world you can easily, or not easily, but you can map to other activities in the world. Like for example, one of the production of some of the product called दांत क्रांति क्या बोलता है वो बाबा रामदेव दांत क्रांति ना नॉट क्रांति क्रांति दांत क्रांति 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 हाँ दांत क्रांति so दांत क्रांति is the toothpaste. So if somebody is reading that particular word as Dant Kanti is written, our product is Dant Kanti. Okay, who is going to understand that? So there must have been a classification. In which particular categories is herbal categories or it is non-herbal categories. So some classifications are made. If you read fully and with patience, I think you can understand everything. All right. So questions are mentioned like list of household and non-agricultural establishment is given here. Then selection of eligible non-agricultural establishments under coverage of these. Then another block of information is providing some other information. I think okay. This is the complete one. Okay, I have one another approach to do. That is, these are the background information I've given. Our dedicated lecture for this is after the tea time. That session is for handling this. So let's, in the break time, you can explore. I will also help you out to explore. So now let me stick to a gravity model. Yes. Okay. So how to start with the gravity framework. So this one we'll do it in our break time as well as after the break time. We have a dedicated 1 hour time. So I'll clarify all set of things in detail. So something is left because if gravity model is not covered now, we cannot cover it in another class for sure because that class is different. That lecture is completely different. So starting with gravity model, I'll Urmi and others will be providing some of the other materials related to gravity model, where we also and some workable data set, some sample practice data set. I think C is going to share with you right now, where I'm deriving the result. let's understand gravity model, the basics of gravity model. That is on and why gravity model is suddenly included in this lecture. I also thought of, while we have said or discussed largely on gender and form performance. So we have been specifically mentioning form performance repeatedly in different lectures. Though gravity model is conceptualized through trade perspectives or through trade transactions, but gravity model is not a concept derived from economics; it is derived from physics, from the from the Newtonian laws of gravity. So the meaning of gravity, the very basic meaning of gravity is that it attracts, it embraces. So whichever perspective we are explaining, maybe for developmental perspective, maybe from growth perspective, if something or the other, like if you are saying societal norm is conceptualizing our, farm performance. If social networking is the call for farm performance, so which are the indicators of social, networking is actually inviting more concentration of industries or more concentration of activities. So wherever the concentration or the attraction or the gravitational forces works, this model can be applied. But there are some standard tools where the gravity model is applied. But so far, in almost all the calculations we have seen, it is applied in macro data, in international data largely. Okay. And the economic interpretation of this is through the economic sizes, how it is directly proportional to the GDP, and 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 if for example, if countries are more or less proportional to their that of their GDPs, they are more attractive. Like European economy, they are together in forming one eurozone or economic union only because largely they are at similar status, similar stature in terms of macroeconomic indicators. Maybe through monetary indicators, maybe through fiscal indicators, they are actually more or less balanced. If India proposes to be inside European zone, they are not going to accept it easily because India is not comparable in many indicators of the European standard. Is it okay? So hence, what most importantly in the very basic gravity model, they're given the information about economic sizes, economic dimension and their sizes. Typically, it is GDP. GDP, if they are comparable, then gravitation force works. Okay. There are also while defining the performance of something, we are going to discuss about some invert of some forces which affect adversely, some forces which affect inversely. So inversely proportional to that of the gravitational forces is also taken into account. That is the distance function. So distance is one of the factor of counterarguing about your concentration, or this is one of the factors where you can cross check whether a concentration is still visit or not by inputting some of the controlling factors such as distance, maybe taxes, maybe violence. Those factors, even if they are very much there in any system, they are still, the economies are concentrated. They are taking single or common goal or common objectives. So that's all about gravity model. Okay. So we'll be discussing some of the factors which break the bilateral ties or the FTAs, free trade agreement, or maybe our presidential, call, or in a G20 presidency where a country takes the lead in convening the meetings and taking most of the decisions, where India made its rule in the last year. And as per the newspaper claim, we were highly successful in inviting G20, economy, and India actually prospered to a great extent. Anyway, I'm not adding more views on it. So first of all, the very basic equation. Since we don't have more time, I'm putting less time for this. Rest, I think we'll be sharing with the document. One of the WTO document is there in the common file. We have got that. Okay, so that will be guiding you all the steps, all codes to calculate its gravitation, best equations.
This grade will be the grade column. It's like in grade is export, both import and export.
Trade is important export. Total.
We cannot take only export.
Can be taken, but as per I'll come. Wait. I'll come. I'll open this. Okay, in between, let me open this first. Let me first of all mention what is this x. What is this value? Why we are saying it is called gravity equation. Gravity equation takes into account the multiplier effect of the concentration and negate the negative effects by dividing the negative factors. So G is constant and gravitation force between ith country with jth country. How far India is having a gravitational force with Europe, India with US, India with China, India with any country, or Japan with India, any country I and J can be taken. And okay, and in the numerator, it is all about the MI and MJ. MI stands for your GDP or maybe any positive indicators of attraction, that is GDP, and or economic sizes, or maybe their developmental indicators, if any, can be quantified very clearly. That can be also taken. Then your MJ. MJ is another country, partner country's GDP. So both are multiplied. That shows what is the total extent of their concentration, divided by what is actually disturbing their concentration. Okay, that is the distance. So here, in the equation, they have taken either distance or tariff. Here they have taken T stands for tariff. Tariff is a disturbing factor of their concentration. So, or maybe any other thing. So G is constant. If I take a log of it, log transformation of it, put in absolute terms, GDP in absolute term, this is in absolute term, this distance is also in absolute term. So if I just take log transformation, this can be linearized. This can be interpreted in a linear equation, isn't it? So what will be that? That will be log of G, that's a constant, plus log of Mi plus log of Mj minus of log of Tmj, isn't it? So this is what we have got, a linear equation. So from the linear equation, we can estimate using the very basic OLS model as well. Now, when we should apply OLS or not, that's another second call. Whether it is OLS is the best fit or it is the panel model is the best fit. So we need to take calls again. So this is how it is transformed to the linearized form. And can be also applied, right? Okay. Error term. All right. So I'm not specifically mentioning all sort of things. So while taking these factors, we are not just confined by these two positive indicator, that is GDP only. We can take any other factor. We can also take dummy variables also in our model. So we'll discuss what kind of dummy include. We can also include dummy variables, like suppose common language. So language in India is that of Germany. There is no common language. If I say India and its trade with Bangladesh, there are some people there are some estimates where they speak Hindi as well. There are people who are speaking, Bengali language. So there are commonalities. So we can for one language, one code, second language, second code number 2, third language. If it is binary, purely dummy 1 and 0. Do they have common language? You will say yes. If it is completely Indian, Nepal, yes, they have common language. So we'll say yes. 1 is the code. So those can be also utilized. So And then using if there are some trouble with the OLS model, we all know that there are problems with the OLS model. We can convert them into panel form, and usually if you are working with so many years of data, it can be converted into panel form, and panel estimation can be made. And especially one of the suggestions given in that document, we have mentioned very clearly why Poisson pseudo maximum likelihood is considered, especially for robustness check. So that is a separate call, it's a specific methodology call. So I'm only touching upon how to estimate Y gravity, how to estimate gravity, and how to do. That's the basic one. Rest I think you can extend. And it is highly useful for policy. If we find that through the gravity equations, gravity estimation, when we estimate that India and Singapore has huge extent of gravitational forces, then we can suggest to the government through a paper that why not India and Singapore should be having one foreign trade agreement. ASEAN is there already, but India is not a full member of ASEAN economy. They have not yet full-fledged considered. When India is comparable with that group, ASEAN group Association of Southeast Asian Economies, then they might consider it, and they may also estimate some of the findings related to the scope for a strong association through the gravity model. One of the format to establish or to propose or to have a policy for FTA or any form of agreement, and that is through gravitation model. Is it okay? Then there are some limitations of the log linear gravity model. I think I've started with the practical. Where is the practical? Oh, here is the practical. I'll come back to this. Let me first address this. Here is your Excel data. You have, yes. So this is taken from this source. I think the source we have given. Here is the source. If you click on this, you can download all the data sets. Specifically, this provides indicators to apply gravity model across the globe. Okay, so they are providing data across the globe for all the countries in the globe, and they also ensure that these variables will work for gravity model. Okay, so I'm not going through, probably it is open. If it's not there, then I'll check once. Yes, this is the one. So you can download the data in any of the format, and then you have to filter it for the specific countries you want to work. Okay, here is the solution. We have added the link on the PPT. It's okay. So the next one, if this is the data, Soma has actually filtered it, and we have also written one article on it, and then it is communicated. So we have taken the data included 15 till 18 till 19, 2019 data of different countries where and this is taken from the perspective of Germany. How far Germany is actually having strong gravitation forces with other countries. Okay, so the data, most importantly, we require GDP, then per capita GDP. This is Germany GDP in different years, these years. Okay, so Germany GDP, then per capita GDP, and is there any common language or not? There is hardly any common language with Germany, so it is 0. Then RTI, is there any RTI with any of the countries? There are some numbers written as 5, then again 5 here. So somewhere 2, okay, and the codes for different codes clarifying the numbers, we can provide it later as well. Whether it is which form of RTA is formed, it's given in the dataset itself. Now, the first duty is to check. We also provided the code with you, the do file with you. You simply run it and try to interpret it. So the data is the same data. This one is imported here, and we are calculating using this do file.
Sir, what does that indicate RTA? 5 to level of integration.
Level of integration. So I think even so much shared with me, I'm forgetting. One is common union. CU is for common union. Okay, so I'll just say, we'll also say, customs union, sorry. Customs union, here are the details. So one is for CU, that's what that's called custom union. Another one is economic integration agreement, free trade agreement, partial agreement, likewise.
Last is the European.
They have provided in the data set, they have provided all these details. Okay, so you will find out over the time. If you explore, you will find out very clearly. Okay, so coming to this, since these data are in absolute number, it is always suggested to convert them into log. And then the gravity model also works through the logarithm transformation only. Okay, then only we can apply the basic models. So and it's also comparative. So I have initially run this, and then I was just trying to check all sort of things. This is how the log transformations are made. For specifically, we start with checking with total trade volume, then with then with GDP of ith country, then GDP with jth country, then the distance, and they have these data set provide the distance across all the countries in kilometers. Okay, so this is a first table. Then we can convert them for our estimation. Since there are a number of limitations with OLS, we have also mentioned in this PPT that if there are some zero indicator, then log transformation is not possible. It keeps misleading result, and then log zero of trade flows is actually it is not deriving any result, and then again observations with zero export divided by imports are also dropped. Wherever we take ratio of the exports and import, zero divided by zero is also dropped. Then there are this can be also biased as zeros are non-random. There are some issues of heteroscedasticity. There are so many issues I'm not discussing. These are methodological aspects, can be checked later on. But most importantly, if we are deriving results, then for what purpose, and then what are the right interpretation? Okay. So then we all know that the panel-based estimation, since time dimensions are there over the time. So why not carry with a panel estimation, so that it captures some of the problems which are reported with the OLS model. So to convert this and to check whether it is in panel format or not. So first do file where we can run this to check this xt set. That's the checkpoint, and by its ID and year, this provides this. Yes, this suggests that it's a strongly balanced panel. You should know all sort of things. Those who are working with panel data, whether it is a balanced panel or not, whether it is an unbalanced panel or not, whether it is a wide panel or not, whether it is a long panel or not. Such things should be understood correctly. And then our we can run this. Then this the first estimates whether its fixed effect model is applied or not. All sort of basic checks should be done. I think people usually do it. The last one result, since you already exceeded time, I'm not suggesting you to spend more time. Then if it is not significant, if the fixed effect is not significant, then model is not significant, then what should you do? What should you do? We should go for random effect model. Then that we did it, and then finally for the result, so we can apply, and we can find out these results. Which one is impacting much so far as trade flows are concerned? This is a simple transform formed of OLS model. So far as gravity model is concerned, we simply said it's a logarithmic transformation of the factors we have taken. So most importantly, whether the concentration is actually improving of trade flows or not is the first interpretation. Second one is any negative forces actually reducing our trade volume or not. If it is working simultaneously, then we can present yes, this is how the gravitational forces works, and now we can check from this one the GDP of the ith country is significant. Of course, it should be. No trade. If trade is higher, it is positively linked. And your Jth country, if GDP is higher, it's not that significant. So that means with that country, we don't find any evidences of gravitational forces. So for GDP is concerned. Coming to the distance, it's significant. So higher the distance, it is negatively affected. Usually we will get this negative result. And if it is not significant, then distance doesn't matter. We can still form a union or a okay. So this model using a sample data. So not necessarily everything is correct. Whatever the result I am showing it's not necessarily correct. Okay. So just to prove a point that trade is a function of distance, function of economic indicator and distance, is proving a possibility of union. All right. So that's all about gravity model. Rest of the things, you can explore from the document. Document will be provided, it's provided or will be provided for sure. And after this break, now we are actually breaking for tea. After this break, we'll discuss about handling these large scale data sets, including